The sun was setting over Los Angeles, casting long shadows across the worn basketball court of the Jefferson Community Center. The rhythmic bounce of basketballs and squeaking of sneakers filled the evening air as Jessica Martinez gathered her equipment, her shoulders heavy after another long day. She'd been running these youth basketball sessions for 3 years now, ever since her husband's passing left her to raise their 2 children alone. The dedication in her eyes never wavered as she watched the last few kids practicing their layups. Some parents were already arriving to pick up their children, offering grateful smiles and quick waves as they hurried home for dinner. But for Jessica, her day wasn't over yet. She still had to clean up, lock up, and then head to her night shift at the local diner, a necessity to make ends meet. "Great job today, everyone," she called out, her voice carrying the warmth and encouragement that had become her trademark. "Remember to practice those dribbling exercises we worked on." The children's faces lit up at her praise, their enthusiasm untouched by the fact that their basketball hoops were slightly crooked or that some of their balls were starting to show signs of wear. As the court slowly emptied, Jessica began her usual routine of collecting stray basketballs and organizing equipment. Her mind wandered to the bills piling up at home and the upcoming tournament she somehow needed to fund. The community center's budget had been cut again, and she was running out of creative ways to stretch what little resources they had. The sound of a car door closing in the parking lot barely registered. Parents were always running a few minutes late. But the footsteps that followed were different, more purposeful. Jessica continued her work, kneeling to pick up a fallen water bottle when a shadow fell across the court. "Excuse me," a deep voice called out, "is this where the youth basketball program meets?" Jessica turned, squinting against the setting sun, and nearly dropped the water bottle she was holding. Standing before her was none other than Kobe Bryant, his presence both commanding and gentle as he surveyed the modest community court. For a moment, she couldn't find her voice. This had to be a mistake. Why would Kobe Bryant be here, at this small community center in one of LA's forgotten neighborhoods? But there he was, dressed casually in a black hoodie and jeans, his eyes taking in every detail of the court with the same intensity he once brought to the game. "Yes," she finally managed, straightening up. "Yes, this is it. I'm Jessica Martinez, the coach." She extended her hand, trying to maintain her composure despite the surreal nature of the moment. Kobe's handshake was firm, his smile genuine. "I've heard about your program," he said, and Jessica's heart skipped a beat. Word gets around when someone's making a real difference in these kids' lives. Jessica felt a mix of pride and embarrassment. "We do what we can with what we have," she replied, gesturing to the worn equipment and aging facility. "The kids make it worth it." Kobe nodded, his expression thoughtful as he picked up one of the basketballs, spinning it in his hands with the familiarity of someone who had spent countless hours doing just that. "Tell me about your program," he said, but there was something in his tone that suggested he already knew more than he was letting on. As they walked the length of the court, Jessica found herself opening up about everything: the daily challenges, the kids' progress, the constant struggle to keep the program running. She told him about Tommy, who had been on the verge of joining a gang before basketball gave him a different path. About Maria, whose grades had improved dramatically since she started playing. About the dozens of children who found not just a sport here, but a family. Most of these kids, she explained, her voice softening, they need more than just basketball skills. They need someone to believe in them, to show up for them consistently. Sometimes that means being a coach, sometimes it means being a mentor, and sometimes it just means being there to listen. Kobe was silent for a moment, his eyes scanning the court again, but this time Jessica could see he was seeing more than just the physical space. He was seeing the potential, the dreams, the possibilities. "How many kids do you work with?" he asked. "We have about 30 regular attendees," Jessica replied, "but there's a waiting list. We just don't have the resources to take on more right now." She hesitated before adding, "Some of them can't afford the registration fees, but you let them play anyway," Kobe finished for her, a knowing smile playing at his lips. Jessica nodded, feeling somewhat vulnerable under his perceptive gaze. "I know what it's like to need someone in your corner," she said quietly. "After my husband passed away, basketball became more than just a sport for my own kids. It became their therapy, their safe space. I wanted to create that same space for other children who might need it. The sun had almost completely set now, the court illuminated by the flickering fluorescent lights overhead. Jessica glanced at her watch, anxiety creeping in as she realized she was going to be late for her shift at the diner. "I'm sorry," she said, beginning to gather her things more quickly. "I have to get to my other job. The diner won't run itself, and these programs don't fund themselves either." She tried to laugh, but it came out more strained than she intended. Kobe's expression shifted, something resolute settling in his features. "Before you go," he said, reaching into his pocket, "I want you to know something." He pulled out what looked like a business card, but when he handed it to her, Jessica saw it was actually a check. Her hands trembled as she read the amount. "I can't." She started to protest, but Kobe held up a hand. "This isn't charity," he said firmly. "This is an investment. In you, in these kids, in this community. But there's something else I want to tell you, something more important than what's written on that check." Jessica stood there, the check in her hand feeling both impossibly light and impossibly heavy at the same time. "What you're doing here?" Kobe continued, his voice carrying the weight of someone who truly understood the impact of dedication and perseverance. "This is the Mamba mentality in its purest form. It's not just about basketball, it's about showing up every day, giving everything you have, and lifting others up along the way. You're not just teaching these kids how to play basketball, you're teaching them how to face life's challenges head-on." Tears welled up in Jessica's eyes as Kobe's words hit home. For years, she had pushed forward, never quite sure if what she was doing was enough, if she was making a real difference. And now, here was one of the greatest basketball players of all time, validating not just her program, but her entire approach to mentoring these kids. "The money will help," Kobe said, gesturing to the check. "But what these kids really need is exactly what you're already giving them, someone who believes in them, who shows up for them, who never gives up on them. That's the real game changer." As Jessica stood there, trying to find the words to express her gratitude, Kobe reached into his other pocket and pulled out a small card. "Call this number tomorrow," he said, handing it to her. "I have some ideas about how we can make this program even stronger. Sometimes the greatest assists come from unexpected places." With that, he turned to leave, but paused for a moment. "Oh, and Jessica?" he called back. "Don't worry about your shift at the diner tonight. I made a few calls. They know you're taking the night off to plan the future of this program. Mamba mentality isn't just about pushing forward, it's about knowing when to take a moment to breathe and strategize." As she watched Kobe's figure disappear into the darkness of the parking lot, Jessica looked down at the check and card in her hands. The amount on the check would cover not just the upcoming tournament, but new equipment, registration fees for kids who couldn't afford them, and so much more. But it was the card and the promise of ongoing support and guidance that brought fresh tears to her eyes. She turned to look at the court one last time before leaving, and for the first time in years, she saw it not just for what it was, but for what it could become. The crooked hoops and worn balls were no longer symbols of limitation, but testament to perseverance. Tomorrow, she would begin planning for a future she had only dared to dream about. But tonight, she would go home to her children and share with them a lesson that went far beyond basketball. Sometimes, when you pour your heart into something bigger than yourself, the world has a way of meeting you halfway. As she gathered her belongings and headed to her car, Jessica couldn't help but smile, thinking about how she would tell her kids about this evening. She had always taught them that hard work and dedication would eventually pay off, but now she had living proof that sometimes angels wore hoodies and carried basketball wisdom, and that miracles could happen on even the most ordinary of courts. The next morning dawned with a different energy at the Jefferson Community Center. Jessica arrived earlier than usual, the events of the previous evening still feeling like a dream. But the check in her wallet and Kobe's business card in her hand were tangible reminders that it had all been real. Her fingers trembled slightly as she dialed the number he had given her. 3 rings, then a professional voice answered. "Mamba Sports Academy, how can I direct your call?" Jessica took a deep breath. "My name is Jessica Martinez. Kobe Bryant asked me to call this number." There was a brief pause, then, "Yes, Ms. Martinez." We've been expecting your call. Please hold for Rob. The next voice she heard belonged to Rob Palinka, Kobe's longtime agent and friend. Jessica, thank you for calling. Kobe told me about your program and the incredible work you're doing. We've got some exciting possibilities to discuss. What followed was a conversation that would reshape not just Jessica's program, but her entire vision of what was possible. Rob outlined a comprehensive plan that Kobe had started putting together the very night he left the community center. The Mamba Sports Academy would partner with her program, providing not just resources and equipment, but a complete support system. Kobe was particularly impressed by your holistic approach, Rob explained. He believes your program could serve as a model for similar initiatives across the country. But first, let's focus on expanding what you've built here. As Rob spoke, Jessica furiously took notes, her heart racing with each new possibility. The academy would provide certified trainers to assist with coaching, educational tutors to support the kids' academic development, and nutritionists to help establish healthy eating habits. But most importantly, they would help Jessica develop a sustainable structure that would allow her to focus entirely on the program, eliminating the need for her second job. The goal, Rob continued, is to create a program that serves the whole child, mind, body, and spirit. Kobe believes you've already laid the foundation for this. We want to help you build upon it. After the call ended, Jessica sat in silence for several minutes, letting everything sink in. The sound of basketballs bouncing outside drew her attention, early arrivals practicing before the official session began. She walked to the window and watched as Tommy, one of her longest-standing students, helped a younger player with their shooting form. The scene before her took on new meaning now. These weren't just kids playing basketball, they were young lives on the cusp of transformation. And thanks to Kobe's intervention, she now had the resources to help guide that transformation. The next few weeks passed in a whirlwind of activity. New equipment began arriving, not just basketballs and uniforms, but training aids she had only dreamed of having. The crooked hoops were replaced with professional-grade systems. The worn court was resurfaced, the fresh paint gleaming under the upgraded lighting system. But the physical changes were just the beginning. The real transformation was happening in the program itself. With the addition of certified trainers, Jessica could now offer more specialized instruction. The educational support program quickly became as integral as the basketball training, with dedicated tutoring sessions helping students improve both on and off the court. One afternoon, about 3 weeks after Kobe's visit, Jessica was reviewing progress reports when she heard a familiar voice. "Looking good in here, Coach Martinez?" She turned to find Kobe standing in the doorway, a warm smile on his face. This time, he wasn't alone. With him was a team of trainers from the Mamba Sports Academy, each carrying equipment bags. "Time for Phase 2, Kobe announced, setting down a large duffel bag. "Today, we're going to show your kids what the Mamba mentality really means." What followed was a training session unlike anything the community center had ever seen. Kobe and his team worked with each child individually, not just on basketball skills, but on understanding the mindset of a champion. He shared stories from his own journey, emphasizing the importance of dedication, perseverance, and continuous learning. "Success isn't just about talent," he told the wide-eyed group. "It's about the work you put in when nobody's watching. It's about getting up early, staying late, and never being satisfied with good enough. But most importantly, it's about lifting others up as you rise." Jessica watched as her students absorbed every word, their faces glowing with inspiration. She saw Tommy, usually so reserved, asking thoughtful questions about footwork and defensive strategies. Maria, who had been struggling with confidence, was now executing drills with newfound determination. During a water break, Kobe pulled Jessica aside. "You've created something special here," he said, gesturing to the transformed space. "But the real magic isn't in the new equipment or the fancy programs. It's in the connection you've built with these kids. That's what we want to preserve and enhance." He handed her another envelope, but this time it wasn't a check. Inside was a detailed proposal for expanding the program to include weekend workshops, summer camps, and even college preparation seminars for the older students. "This is about creating pathways," Kobe explained. Basketball might be the entry point, but we want to show these kids all the possibilities that open up when they develop the right mindset and work ethic. As the day wound down, Kobe gathered everyone for a final talk. The kids sat in a semicircle, still buzzing with energy despite the intense training session. Parents who had arrived early to pick up their children stood at the edges of the court, many recording on their phones. "Look around," Kobe began, his voice carrying to every corner of the gym. "What you see here, this court, this equipment, these opportunities, they're not gifts. They're tools. Tools that Coach Martinez earned through her dedication to all of you. She showed up every day, gave everything she had, and never lost sight of what was possible." He paused, making eye contact with each child. That's what champions do. They see beyond the present circumstances. They work harder than everyone else. They lift others up. And that's exactly what your coach has been teaching you all along. Jessica felt tears welling up as Kobe continued. "Starting next week, this program becomes part of the Mamba Sports Academy family. But remember, it's not about the name or the partnership. It's about the mentality, the willingness to push beyond your limits, to support each other, to never give up on your dreams." After the session ended and the last child had left, Jessica sat in her office, looking at the photos on her wall, pictures of kids who had come through her program over the years. Each face told a story of challenges overcome, confidence built, dreams awakened. Kobe appeared in her doorway one last time. "You know," he said thoughtfully, "when I first heard about your program, people told me about the basketball, about how you were teaching these kids to play the right way. But what caught my attention was how you were teaching them to live the right way." He stepped into the office, picking up a framed photo of Jessica's first team. "This program isn't just about creating better basketball players. It's about creating better futures. That's why we're here. That's why this matters." As he turned to leave, he added one final thought. The Mamba mentality isn't just about individual excellence. It's about creating a legacy that lifts others up. You've been doing that all along, Jessica. We're just here to help you take it to the next level. That evening, as Jessica locked up the community center, she paused to take in the transformed space. The new equipment gleamed under the lights, the fresh paint sparkled, but what really caught her eye were the small things: a child's water bottle left behind, a handmade thank you card pinned to the bulletin board, the sound of distant laughter echoing in the hallways. These were the real markers of success, she realized. Not the physical transformations, but the human ones. The lives being changed, the dreams taking flight, the futures being reshaped. And now, with Kobe's support and the resources of the Mamba Sports Academy behind her, those transformations could reach even further. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities, and new chances to make a difference. But tonight, Jessica Martinez, the single mom who had never given up on her dream of helping others, stood in her transformed gym and smiled. Sometimes, she realized, the biggest dreams don't just come true, they expand into something even greater than you could have imagined. 6 months had passed since Kobe's first visit to the Jefferson Community Center, and the changes went far beyond the gleaming new equipment and freshly painted walls. The real transformation could be seen in the faces of the children who now filled the expanded program, their eyes bright with possibility and purpose. Jessica stood at the center of the court, watching as 60 young athletes, double her original number, moved through their drills with precision and focus. The waiting list that had once seemed an insurmountable challenge was now just a memory. Thanks to the partnership with the Mamba Sports Academy, no child who wanted to participate was turned away. But it wasn't just about the numbers. Each child's story represented a universe of change, a ripple effect that touched families and spread throughout the community. There was Tommy, once on the edge of gang life, now mentoring younger players and maintaining honor roll status. Maria, who had struggled with self-doubt, was now captain of her school's basketball team and teaching younger girls about confidence both on and off the court. The morning session was in full swing when Kobe made one of his regular visits. He had been true to his word, showing up consistently over the past months, sometimes to coach, sometimes to observe, but always to reinforce the principles that had become the foundation of the program. "Coach Martinez," he called out, a proud smile playing across his face as he surveyed the scene. "I brought someone I'd like you to meet." Behind him stood Michael Cooper, the Lakers legend known for his defensive prowess. The kids, recognizing him from the videos Jessica had shown during their basketball history lessons, fell silent in awe. "I've been telling Coop about what you've built here," Kobe explained. "He's interested in starting something similar in his community." Jessica felt a surge of pride mixed with humility. "The real story is in the kids," she said, gesturing to the court where her students had resumed their drills, now with an extra spark of energy in their movements. Michael Cooper nodded appreciatively. "Kobe told me this was special, but seeing it in person, this is more than basketball. This is community transformation." As if to illustrate his point, the door opened and Ms. Rodriguez entered, carrying a large tray of homemade energy bars. Since the program's expansion, parents had become increasingly involved, contributing what they could, from healthy snacks to carpooling to volunteering their time. The parents started a nutrition committee, Jessica explained to Cooper. "They research healthy recipes, coordinate meals for our weekend programs, and even started a community garden behind the center." Kobe's eyes lit up. "See, Coop? This is what I was talking about. The Mamba mentality isn't just about what happens on the court. It's about creating a movement that lifts entire communities." They watched as the morning session transitioned into the academic portion of the program. The court transformed effortlessly into a study space, with players moving to designated areas where tutors waited to help with homework and test preparation. "Our academic achievement rates have skyrocketed," Jessica shared, leading them to her office where charts tracked both athletic and academic progress. 95% of our kids have improved their grades since joining the program. 3 of our high school seniors just received college acceptance letters, 2 with basketball scholarships." The walls of her office told the story of the program's evolution. Photos of the original group hung beside more recent images, the transformation evident not just in the facilities but in the confident poses and bright smiles of the participants. "But here's what really matters," Jessica said, pulling out a folder. "These are the impact statements we've been collecting from parents and teachers." She handed Kobe and Cooper a letter from Tommy's mother. "Before this program, I was losing my son to the streets. Now he talks about college, about giving back to his community. He's not just playing basketball, he's building a future." Another letter, this one from Maria's teacher. "The change in Maria goes beyond her improved grades. She's become a leader in the classroom, helping other students, speaking up during discussions. The confidence she's gained through the program has transformed her entire approach to learning." Cooper studied the letters, his expression thoughtful. "This is exactly what we need more of," he said finally. "Programs that understand that sports can be the gateway to larger transformation." Just then, a commotion from the court drew their attention. They stepped out to find Tommy leading an impromptu demonstration for the younger players, teaching them the defensive stance that Kobe had shown him weeks earlier. "Watch your footwork," Tommy was saying, his voice carrying the same mix of authority and encouragement that Jessica had used with him countless times. "Remember what Coach Bryant said, defense isn't just about stopping the other player, it's about reading their intentions, staying one step ahead." Kobe nudged Jessica. "You see that? That's your real legacy right there. They're not just learning the game, they're learning to teach it. To lead." The afternoon brought another surprise as Rob Pelinka arrived with news that would take the program to an even higher level. The Mamba Sports Academy was launching a nationwide initiative to replicate Jessica's model in communities across the country. "We want you to help lead this expansion," Rob announced. "Your program will serve as the template, and you'll help train other coaches to implement the same holistic approach." Jessica felt overwhelmed by the proposition. "But my kids here will continue to be your primary focus," Kobe interjected. "But think about it, Jessica. What you've built here deserves to be shared. Think of all the other communities that could benefit from this approach." As if on cue, a group of kids burst into the office, excited to share their report cards. Among them was David, a quiet boy who had joined the program 3 months ago, barely able to make eye contact. Now he stood tall, proudly displaying his improved grades. "Coach Martinez, look," he beamed. I got a B+ in math. Those study techniques you showed us really worked. Jessica felt tears welling up as she hugged each child, celebrated their achievements, and watched them bounce back to their activities. This was why she had started the program, to create a space where children could discover their potential, where they could learn that they were capable of so much more than they had imagined. Later that evening, after the last child had left and the center had grown quiet, Jessica sat with Kobe, Cooper, and Rob, planning the next phase of the program's evolution. What you've created here, Cooper said, it's not just a basketball program. It's a blueprint for change. Kobe nodded in agreement. The Mamba mentality was never just about basketball. It was about approaching every challenge with dedication, perseverance, and a commitment to excellence. You've taken that philosophy and used it to transform lives. Jessica looked around the center, remembering the worn-down facility it had been just 6 months ago. But more than the physical transformation, she thought about the changes she'd witnessed in her kids, the improved grades, the growing confidence, the emerging leadership skills. When you showed up that evening, she said to Kobe, I thought you were just going to help us fix our equipment, maybe provide some funding. I never imagined. That's because you were too busy doing the work to imagine the recognition it deserved, Kobe replied. But that's exactly why this program works. It's built on genuine dedication to these kids, not on seeking attention or acclaim. As they continued their planning session, the discussion turned to the future. The nationwide expansion would begin with 5 pilot programs in different cities, each adapted to meet the specific needs of its community but maintaining the core principles that had made Jessica's program successful. The key, Jessica emphasized, is understanding that every community is unique. The basketball is important, but it's really about creating a space where kids feel valued, supported, and challenged to grow. Rob was taking notes, documenting the essential elements that would need to be replicated, the combination of athletic training and academic support, the involvement of parents and community members, the emphasis on personal development alongside basketball skills. And most importantly, Kobe added, finding leaders like Jessica who understand that this is about more than just teaching basketball. It's about teaching life. As the meeting concluded and Jessica prepared to lock up for the night, she found herself back on the court, standing in the spot where she had first met Kobe 6 months ago. The space looked different now, bigger, brighter, more alive with possibility. But the heart of the program remained the same, a commitment to helping children discover their potential on and off the court. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities. There would be more lives to touch, more dreams to nurture, more futures to shape. But tonight, Jessica Martinez stood in her transformed center and felt a deep sense of gratitude. What had started as one person's dedication to making a difference had grown into something far greater, a movement that would continue to create ripples of change for years to come. 1 year to the day since Kobe Bryant first walked into the Jefferson Community Center, the gymnasium was filled to capacity. Families, community members, and distinguished guests had gathered for what had become known as Dream Day, an annual celebration of the program's achievements and a showcase of its impact. Jessica stood at the podium, her heart full as she surveyed the crowd. In the front row sat Tommy and Maria, now program ambassadors, alongside dozens of other students whose lives had been transformed over the past year. Behind them were representatives from community centers across the country, eager to learn from what had become a model program for youth development. A year ago, Jessica began, her voice steady despite the emotion welling up inside her, I was standing on this court, picking up basketballs and wondering how we would keep this program running. Then a stranger walked in, except he wasn't really a stranger at all. He was someone who saw what we were trying to build here and understood its potential. Kobe, seated on the stage behind her, nodded encouragingly. The past year had seen him become not just a benefactor but a true partner in the program's evolution. His regular visits and continued guidance had helped shape what was now known as the Mamba Community Initiative. But this story isn't about one person's intervention, Jessica continued. It's about what happens when we believe in each other, when we invest in our community, when we refuse to let circumstances define our possibilities. The evidence of those possibilities was all around them. The gymnasium, once struggling with basic equipment, had become a state-of-the-art facility. But more importantly, it had become a beacon of hope for the community. The walls were now adorned with college acceptance letters, academic achievement awards, and newspaper clippings chronicling the program's success. "Today, we're not just celebrating our achievements," Jessica announced. "We're celebrating the launch of something even bigger." She gestured to the visitors from other cities. Starting next month, the Mamba Community Initiative will be opening programs in 20 communities across the country. But before we talk about expansion, I want to share some stories that remind us why we're here. She motioned to Tommy, who rose and walked to the podium with confidence that would have seemed impossible a year ago. "Before this program," he began, "I was angry. But I thought basketball was just a game, and education was just something to endure. Coach Martinez and Coach Bryant showed me they're both tools for building a better life." Tommy paused, collecting himself. "Next fall, I'll be attending UCLA on a full academic scholarship. Yes, I'll be playing basketball too, but it's the academic achievement I'm most proud of. That wouldn't have happened without this program, without Coach Martinez believing in me even when I didn't believe in myself." Maria took the podium next, her voice strong and clear. "A year ago, I could barely speak in front of 3 people. Now I'm coaching our junior girls program and maintaining a 4.0 GPA. This program taught me that confidence isn't about being perfect, it's about believing in your ability to grow and improve." As more students shared their stories, Jessica watched the visitors from other cities taking notes, their expressions a mix of amazement and determination. They were seeing firsthand what Kobe had recognized that first evening, that with the right support and guidance, a simple basketball program could become a catalyst for profound community transformation. Kobe took the podium next, his presence commanding yet warm. "When I first visited this center, I saw something special. Not just in the program itself, but in the vision behind it." Jessica Martinez understood something fundamental, that sports can be a gateway to greater change, but only if we approach it with the right mindset. He gestured to the banners hanging from the ceiling, each representing a different aspect of the program: academic excellence, community service, leadership development, and athletic achievement. The Mamba mentality isn't just about becoming a better athlete. It's about becoming a better person, a better leader, a better member of your community. Rob Pelinka stepped forward then, unveiling the blueprint for the national expansion. The model developed at Jefferson would be adapted for each community's specific needs while maintaining the core principles that had made it successful: the combination of athletic training and academic support, the emphasis on personal development, and the involvement of the entire community. But perhaps most importantly, Rob added, "We're not just replicating a program, we're building a network. Each center will be connected, sharing resources, experiences, and opportunities. The students you see here today won't just be role models in their own community, they'll be part of a nationwide movement." The presentation shifted to a video screen, showing footage from the past year: early morning training sessions, afternoon study groups, community service projects, and celebrations of both athletic and academic achievements. The transformation was evident not just in the facilities but in the faces of the participants: the growing confidence, the sense of purpose, the joy of achievement. Jessica returned to the podium for the final announcement. "Today, we're not just celebrating our past achievements or future expansions. We're establishing the Mamba Community Scholarship Fund." She revealed a large check, the amount causing gasps throughout the audience. Starting next year, this fund will provide college scholarships to program participants who demonstrate the values we champion: academic excellence, community leadership, and the Mamba mentality. The audience erupted in applause, but Jessica wasn't finished. "And to launch this fund, I want to recognize our first recipient." She smiled at Tommy. "Tommy's academic scholarship to UCLA is impressive, but this additional funding will ensure he has everything he needs to succeed and to continue giving back to this community during his college years." Tears flowed freely as Tommy embraced Jessica, then Kobe, the moment symbolizing everything the program had come to represent: hope, transformation, and the power of believing in someone's potential. As the formal ceremony concluded, the gym transformed for a community celebration. Tables of food prepared by program parents lined the walls, music filled the air, and impromptu basketball games broke out on the court. The visitors from other cities mingled with students and parents, learning firsthand about the program's impact. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Jessica found herself back on the court with Kobe, just as they had been a year ago. But this time, they weren't surrounded by worn equipment and uncertainty. They were standing in a space filled with achievement and possibility. "You know what I love most about this program?" Kobe said, watching as Tommy showed a group of younger kids the proper shooting form. "It's not just about what these kids are becoming, it's about what they're giving back. Every success story here creates a dozen more." Jessica nodded, thinking about how far they'd come. "When you first walked in that door, I thought you were here to save our program. But what you really did was help us save ourselves. You showed us what was possible when someone believes in your vision." "No," Kobe corrected gently. "I just provided some resources. You showed these kids, and this community, what was possible when they believed in themselves. That's the real legacy here." As they watched the last families leaving, exchanging hugs and proud smiles, Jessica reflected on the journey. The program had grown beyond her wildest dreams, but its heart remained the same, a commitment to helping young people discover their potential and build better futures. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The national expansion would require attention and guidance. New students would arrive with their own struggles and dreams. But tonight, standing in the transformed gymnasium that had become a symbol of hope for an entire community, Jessica Martinez knew that this was just the beginning. The Mamba mentality that Kobe had shared wasn't just about basketball excellence, it was about the relentless pursuit of improvement, the dedication to lifting others as you rise, and the understanding that true success is measured not in personal achievements but in the lives you touch and transform. As she locked up the center for the night, Jessica paused at the door, looking back at the court where it all began. The space was quiet now, but she could still hear the echoes of bouncing balls, excited voices, and dreams taking flight. Tomorrow, those sounds would fill 20 more centers across the country, creating new ripples of hope and transformation. And it all started because one person believed in another's vision, proving that sometimes the greatest assists in life don't happen on the basketball court. They happen in the moments when someone sees your potential and helps you turn it into reality.